You're very aware of it. You catch a ship, you catch a plane. There's always this time of transition. But going through the Channel Tunnel, it's nothing. It's 20 minutes of a very, very smooth ride. The windows go dark, the windows come light again, and you're in a different country, which for someone from my country is quite unique. And I thought, this is the closest thing I'll ever be to being teleported. So it worked out from there. It came from there. If you do build some kind of portal to another world, they will be very expensive to build. How do you make money out of it? You put goods, you put people through as fast as you can, and the way to do that is with trains. So it all built on that one trip.
Yeah, it was, and I like the scene in the beginning of the book where you have the first landing on Mars. And astronauts step out of the ship, and you think like the first moon landing, big step for mankind and all that. And then they turn around and look at some snotty students from Berkeley.
Yes, yes. It's the big. You think that's the way it's going. You think that's how it's going to build, and I pull a switch on you. And I did like that. Yeah, that was quite fun to write.
And they never forgive them.
No, they don't. Never forgive and never forget.
And in such a huge novel, or novels, the first two novels are almost like one story split into two volumes.
Absolutely. It is one story, but for physical requirements, it has to be done in two books. It is one story. They say trilogy. It is one story in 3 books. The same with Pandora's Star and Judas. It is one story.
But in such a huge story, you get to explore a lot of different themes. Did you plan out what you wanted to say, or did it just come along as you developed the story?
Most of it is planned out. Certainly the actual details of the plot line are planned out very well. Themes tend to creep in from time to time, and I then have fun trying to incorporate them into the latter half of the story. But that's the point of keeping the writing fresh, is ideas that occur to you on the day get put down. Otherwise it would just be typing really without writing. So I need that freshness of thought every day to try and make it more interesting.
We have themes of alien conflict, we have freedom fighters, terrorism, what have you. And these are quite, well, themes that are prevalent in today's news.
Oh yes, it might be set in the far future, but it absolutely reflects what I see around me today. That is the whole point of writing, I feel. The themes, they might have different names, they might look different, but they're the same problems that affect us today. They are my reflections on that, without a doubt.
Yes, but maybe we don't see so much alien conflict in the news today, but you never know, we might get there.
But our fear of the unknown, our fear of the other, is rooted into us. We do not like something out of the ordinary. That is very much today.
Of course. And at the same time, we are very curious, so we want to know about the difference.
Yes, and in the case of Pandora, it's absolutely disastrous. That is the name of the book. When you open Pandora's Star, when you open Pandora's box, you don't know what's going to come out. But that curiosity we've got, that drive, just propels us along no matter what. It's a very, very fundamental part of human nature. Sometimes it works well for us, in this case it didn't.
And then we come to the current trilogy, the Void trilogy. The last book has just come out, The Evolutionary Void. Here we have the same universe, but about 1,000 years later. Did you feel that you wasn't finished with it, or what compelled you to keep on with the same universe?
Firstly, I did like some of the characters in it, and I was very familiar with it. So when the idea of the Void came along, when I looked around at what kind of universe I could put it in, it just seemed to fit very neatly into the Commonwealth universe. So when you get a feeling like that, just don't fight it, just go with it. And it was fun to extrapolate a future society, which I've been dealing with for a long time, even further, to see their future, as it were. That was quite a fun thing to do.
Can imagine. And one of the themes in these books are religion, and religion dealing with impending apocalypse, the void expanding. What are your thoughts about that?
It's not quite religion. Religion essentially reflects our need to believe in something. A lot of people believe in themselves. A lot of people transfer that belief onto something that will give them hope. But it's something that cannot be ignored in human nature. The aspect of that faith in this case was the void. They believe their salvation lies there. They believe a better life lies there, and they will pursue that belief no matter what the consequences to everyone else. So there you immediately set up a conflict. And if everyone else believes that they are going to injure them by going into the void, at what point do those rights carry on to? Do they carry on to a war? Do you have a right to start a war for your own beliefs? That's all part of the main theme of the book. Again, pretty much a reflection of today.
Yes, very much so. Did you have any special inspiration for the Dreamer movement?
No, it just seemed a logical progression of prophets and ideologues of today, is that they promise a lot, but they can never quite show you the end result. Whereas with the Void, you can see the end result, you can see what happens if you go there. So that's a sort of guaranteed salvation as far as they're concerned. So that added an interesting aspect to the whole follow me, I know what I'm doing routine of politicians and religious leaders.
And the dreams themselves, that becomes kind of a story within the story. Almost a fantasy-ish story within the whole. How do you think about that?
It is my fantasy novel. It was a great excuse to write a planetary romance, a fantasy novel, call it what you will. Taken individually, those sections do make up a fantasy novel, so I've covered my bases with that. I've done a fantasy novel, but managed to get it into the science fiction life cycle, managed to integrate it with the science fiction story at the same time. So I was quite pleased with that.
And it's in some aspects quite traditional fantasy with a coming-of-age story with Edyard, and he's developing his skills, and he is the chosen one. It's all quite common fantasy tropes we use.
Oh yes, it's an absolute classic. It's the Lost Prince story. He comes into his own, he saves his people, but then by the third book we then come to learn what the price is. The ultimate power is you just can't keep a grip on it. But he manages to struggle through. But yes, it is an absolute classic story.
And in the beginning of Pandora's Star, there are just these wormholes, almost no spaceships at all. But then gradually they become. We meet more and more spaceships. Did you think that just the wormholes constrained your storytelling, or how come?
The introduction of more and more spaceships, certainly by the start of the Void era, if you like, was more of a politics decision rather than an economic one in that universe. is that people, if you have very, very tight connections with the central world, then that central world can exert its control over you. The freer you are, the more difficult it is to travel somewhere, the more independent you become. And that was the point of the outer worlds, was they wanted that independence from the central colonies. They're still loosely aligned, but that pioneering spirit, that independence, again, is hardwired into humans, and I thought that reflected well in the society.
And the planet with the hardest resistance is, as their name says, far away.
Yes, absolutely. That was the start of the resistance to this monolithic culture. That was the one that led everyone away from it. And as you say, it was very difficult to get there by wormhole. They had to have spaceships. That's how it all kicked off.
Thank you.